For more on the rising tensions with North Korea and the other security threats facing the United States, we're joined from Washington by Douglas Ollivant. He's a senior fellow at New America and an advisor for Monument Capital Group. Douglas, good morning.
Thank you.
Over the course of the last several years, North Korea's nuclear tests have gotten more powerful and more dangerous. There hasn't been one this weekend as yet, but if there is one in the near future, what is your expectation?
Well, as you point out, we just have no idea what the North Korean regime to do. This is perhaps the most opaque place on the planet. We just don't know what's going on inside that regime. So we don't know if they didn't test this weekend deliberately or if they didn't test this weekend because they had a technical problem. We just don't know. If there is a test, our options are somewhat limited. They're there on the peninsula. They have Seoul within striking power. They're extremely prickly, and we just don't know how they would respond to any military response by the United States, which is why we've seen really nothing but diplomacy since the end of the Korean War.
North Korea says it's ready to strike preemptively if the U.S. acts in what it calls a recklessly aggressive manner. What do you make of that threat?
Well, again, this is an exercise in trying to figure out what's going on inside the head of a very young, very erratic man, their head of state, that we know very little about. Were we to do something, it is entirely possible that they might, go all out. We just don't know. It could be that they would give a measured response to what we did, but we just don't know what happens if we trigger something.
Douglas, we don't know what will happen in the future, but we do know what's happened in the past. And the North Koreans seem to have systematically developed this nuclear program. Through the years, they've taken time between these tests to refine these warheads. Do you think there is an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of reaching the United States at this point?
I think the consensus is that, yes, they have a missile that can probably reach the United States, but they don't have the ability to put a nuclear missile on it or a nuclear tip on it yet. So they could, in theory, launch a missile that would have conventional explosives or even chemical weapons, but can't yet strike in a nuclear manner. That's my understanding. I'm not a technical expert on missiles, but I think that's the consensus opinion.
This week, the U.S. dropped the largest non-nuclear bomb ever used in combat in Afghanistan, and this comes, of course, on the heels of the missile strikes in Syria. How do you think that was read in North Korea?
I think the two events that you've described, the strikes in Korea and the strike in Afghanistan, are probably not related. I think each was a response to a distinct situation. But it's entirely possible the North Koreans see this as steps 1 and 2 in perhaps a series of 3. So I suspect they're very much on their toes, and perhaps that's why we didn't see a test this weekend.
Douglas, we do know, though, that the Obama administration was the first to move the quote-unquote mother of all bombs to Afghanistan, to the region. So to what degree is the Trump administration breaking with precedent or continuing on the same trajectory?
The mother of all bombs is a really, really big bomb, but it's used for a certain tactical situation. And my understanding is that in Nangarhar, you had a situation that lent itself to the use of this bomb. You had ISIS insurgents, someone we're very serious about, in a tunnel system. And this bomb is uniquely designed to burn the oxygen out of tunnels and places like that. So it was tactically appropriate for this particular situation. And I don't think it was necessarily seen as some unique escalation.
Douglas Ollivant, thanks for your time.
Thank you.